Hey anarchists, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I'm super excited to have back on, for the second time, Larken Rose. You have to be good to be on Anarchast more than once. For people who don't know him, and if you're an anarchist, there's pretty much no way you don't, but if you don't, he's the writer of two great books, one called The Iron Web, and the other one is a truly great book, in my opinion, called The Most Dangerous Superstition. If you don't know those, you have to check them out. And he's also been working on a lot of different things. He's an incredibly busy guy. He works tirelessly for freedom. Since we last talked to him, he has started something called Government on Trial, which we're going to ask him about. And he also has started a new project called The Mirror, which I'm really excited about. And I'm actually going to play the trailer for his upcoming project, The Mirror, right now, and then we'll come right back.
There are plenty of people in the world who are eager to throw their ideas and opinions at you, who want to tell you what you should care about, what you should believe, what you should think, and how you should live your life. But this is not that. Instead, the purpose of The Mirror is to take you on a journey inside your own mind, to let you explore the inner world of your own thought processes. The Mirror is not about what facts you know or how smart you are. It's about exploring what you believe, how you see the world, and why. An interactive process where the way you answer certain questions determines where you will go and what you will discover next. In here, you are the scientist and the subject. You are the doctor and the patient. In here, you will decide what is true and what is false, what is right and what is wrong. But be warned, while digging into the inner workings of your own thoughts, you may discover things you didn't know were there, things that may make you uncertain and uncomfortable. So the first, and perhaps the most important question, is this. If, for whatever reason, you weren't seeing the world as it really is, if certain misunderstandings and false assumptions were causing you to think things and do things which go against what you really believe in and who you really are, would you want to know about it?
So as you can see, really interesting, and we're going to get all into about The Mirror on this interview with Larken today. And as well, Larken, just to start off, since we last talked, there was a really funny incident that happened with Glenn Beck, and I forget exactly how it started or what happened, but essentially Glenn Beck has he's fairly libertarian leaning, but he's not quite there yet. And one day someone posted on his Facebook wall, hashtag who is Larken Rose? And I sent that out to people who follow me on Facebook, and pretty quickly there was literally thousands and thousands of hashtag who is Larken Rose on Glenn Beck's wall, and everyone was talking about who is Larken Rose. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, because I know you told me that you got woken up that day with your phone just buzzing every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it till halfway through. It was actually Glenn Beck did a thing where he sent to his subscribers a thing saying, who do you think should be man of the year? And I don't know who the heck started it, but someone put in my name, and then literally thousands of other people put in. I didn't know that many people knew my freaking name. And then somebody pointed it out to me, and it was, as far as I could tell, it wasn't even an organized thing. It just sort of became a running joke, and he just got flooded with them. And of course he ignored it and chose some statist instead, which I totally expected. But it was funny to see, that basically mainstream statism trying to pretend that voluntarists don't exist. Like, not that, anything but that. Let's talk about this comfortable area of thought of whose boots should we lick today. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. And what that really showed me was two things. One was that our sort of movement, if you want to call it that, and I hate calling it that, and all of us do, but it is sort of a movement of waking people up to liberty, which is, surprisingly enough, people need to be woken up to. It really has been growing because you wouldn't have seen anything like that a few years ago with, I was actually surprised too. Like you said, you didn't even know that many people even knew your name. I knew people knew your name because you are growing. I think you're one of the top anarchists out there right now in terms of your name recognition and people really liking you. And it really showed on that Who is Larken Rose thing. But the other thing that it really showed was aside from the fact that that there is that many anarchists out there, is just how popular you are. Because they could have chosen any of the sort of bigger names. They could have said who is Murray Rothbard or anyone, but they chose you, and everyone got behind it. So you've really been getting a lot of street cred with the community, I can tell. And that's why I'm super excited that we convinced you to come to Anarchapulco in February 19th to 21st. We'll talk about that later as well. But let's get totally caught up here. Let's talk about first the government on trial, which I think was a really interesting approach, and you had quite a bit of support for that too. You've been getting a lot of support, which is great. It shows you're doing something that people are finding of value. Tell us a little bit about how the government on trial has been going.
Yeah, Government on Trial is a campaign basically where we target 200 political philosophy professors and ask them 5 questions that basically have to do with, why do you imagine that government is legitimate at all? Where does it get its authority from? Things like, can people, it's more carefully worded for philosophy professors, but it's basically, can people delegate a right they don't have? Do people have an obligation to follow the law if their moral conscience says it's wrong? Things like that don't get discussed in the mainstream. And so the goal is to send out 200. We're about halfway to having them sent out. I want to do it in waves so that if I did get responses, they wouldn't be all at once, and then I'd be overwhelmed. So far, we only have 2 responses, and one of them is from Professor Michael Huemer, and he doesn't count because he's already an anarchist. So the answers, the questions are way too easy for him. But we did get another one, but I'm just about to get the website up so people can see that. And I wasn't expecting them to respond to round 1, so we have lots of follow-ups that we're going to do to try to nudge these professors into answering, because they have a big incentive to not answer because they don't have an answer. And it's the reason I wanted to do this is because it's so easy for people to think, well, sure, you can debate some random person on Facebook and they can't justify their belief system. But of course, the experts know better. And of course, they could explain it. And the purpose of this is to demonstrate, no, nobody in the world can make statism rational because it isn't rational. It doesn't make sense. It's always self-contradictory. It's never consistent. And the way to do that is to go to the people who teach political mythology to the next level, to the next generation, and say, all right, can you actually explain this? Can you justify your own belief system? And what you teach at the college level to, all these students who are, hanging on your every word, oh, this is the nature of reality. And to demonstrate, no, even the most basic things, they can't explain, they can't answer it.
Yeah, it's so funny and sad that you had 2 responses, and one of them was from an anarchist professor. And yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
and I actually expect more of that because there are more of them. Like, for them, it's not uncomfortable to answer. It's like, well, that's easy. It takes 5 words. Yes, yes, no, yes. Like, yes, 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 no, yes. So, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, Tom Woods actually told me I should have Michael Huemer on my show, and I did try to contact him. I forget what happened, but now that I know that he responded to your thing, if anyone out there knows him, please tell him to contact me because I'd like to have him on Anarchast. And talking a bit more about government on trial, Jan Helfeld interviewed Bernie Sanders a number of years ago, and I don't know what year exactly, but it looks kind of old, the tape, and I'm going to play a few snippets of it right now because it's hilarious. And all Jan asked Bernie, Field of Bern Sanders, was, I believe the question was, are you able to give someone a right that you don't have? That's all I believe he asked. We'll play a few snippets of it right now, because you have to see Bernie Sanders wriggle and roll and get angry and freak out just for being asked that question.
Is all legitimate governmental power derived from the people?
Yep.
Did the individual citizens ever have the right to initiate physical force against other citizens that had not initiated or threatened to initiate physical force?
All right. You keep making this point. I don't know what your political background is or what the political background of this. Let me finish, please.
Could you just answer that question?
I'm happy to answer the question.
My question was whether the individuals ever had the right to initiate physical force against other citizens that have not initiated or threatened to initiate physical force.
You seem to think...
Do you think they did or they didn't?
I think your question...
You haven't answered either yes or no.
Frankly, I think your question is absurd.
Is it not possible for you simply to answer the question?
I've asked you to answer that question as best I can.
Well, I have no idea whether it's a yes or a no. What is it?
I've answered that question as best that I can.
If they never had that right, could they have delegated it to the government?
I guess they have. They have delegated the right of governments to make war. They have delegated the right of governments to build roads. They have delegated all types of rights to people. And in a civilized society, as you know, we have laws, we have judges, we have courts, we have appeal processes, and when people break the law, they are punished.
Can you delegate a right that you don't have?
I believe the American people have the right in a representative democracy to delegate power to their elected officials to do best for cities, states, and the federal government. So I guess the answer is yes.
But didn't you say before
Okay,
that they didn't have the right to do that?
Excuse me. Okay. I've got to get going. Thank you very much. What is your background? Well, I've got to go vote right now.
Okay. I understand that you have to go vote.
Can you just ask me a question while we're on the camera?
Can we get to the bottom line?
No, I think
let's just get to the bottom line and wrap it up so that we can finish this show. And
well, I think we've finished the show, and I must confess that your questioning is interesting. I've enjoyed the discussion. Not quite sure where you are coming from, but I've tried my best to answer your questions, and I thank you very much for
I'm trying to...
well, I've got to vote, as you can say. One of the obligations of being a representative is to vote, to try to represent the people as best we can. I got an important vote. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for the interview, Congressman.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for watching.
I would like some more information as to exactly where the show is going to come, where it's, who you are, where you're coming from. I think you gave me about the origin of the show. I would like to know, leave me your card because I would like some very specific information about who you are,
Fine.
who finances the show, and where it goes.
Okay. Would you like to do the show on minimum wage?
No, I've done enough. Thank you.
So as you can see, at the end, he's actually trying to find out who Yan is to have him looked up by the CIA because he asked a question.
So he can break your kneecaps for asking the wrong question.
Status, that's all they know how to do. And
Yep.
so that's why it's so great that you're doing that project. And it's sad but also interesting to see that hardly anyone has responded. And it's actually, as you pointed out, you didn't expect it. I was hoping there would be some responses. But now that I think about it, you can't really respond if you want to keep a status mindset and respond rationally or logically to the questions, can you?
Right. No. But like I said, because we expected that, I have a bunch of already lined up ways to nudge them, eventually getting to asking their students, hey, can you answer these? Like, if you're there teaching us political philosophy, it would be sort of important if you can answer these basic questions. But we'll send reminders and we'll, put more and more pressure on them and until we get some of them to actually talk about it. And then you'll see why they don't talk about it, because they can't. They can't make it rational.
Yeah, and it's because essentially people have been brainwashed, and that's why they can't have a rational conversation about these things. And you saw that with Bernie Sanders there. And I don't know if Bernie's been brainwashed or if he's just a born statist who just loves controlling people and regulating the markets. But you try to talk to your average person. It's not a rational conversation. They will actually get physically upset. Many people, if you just ask them these questions, and that rate there shows that they've been brainwashed. The thousands of times they had to go to the government public indoctrination camps and do their Pledge of Allegiance, the hundreds or thousands of times they've gone to a sporting event which is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense to wave flags, the hundreds of thousands of times they've watched movies or TV shows where the government is the hero, the cops are the heroes, the president is the hero. We can't figure it out. We need the president. Like he's the most important and the only guy who can figure something out. And obviously that's never the case. And the only solution he ever has is, let's call in all these people we've been paying with extorted money to give them guns and get them to kill some people. It's like, okay, well, that's not really the best way usually.
No kidding.
So let's get into the mirror because, again, you've come up with an amazing, elegant idea to break people out of their brainwashing. And I'll let you talk about it. But I think one of the greatest things about it is how it is not a person talking to another person, because I think that gets in the way of so many things because of the brainwashing, that people, they feel defensive or they get angry because they feel like they're being confronted by somebody. So tell us all about the mirror and what you're doing with it.
Yeah, first of all, I'll tell the motivation behind it, and you just basically did. Like, the way people react emotionally is because they were indoctrinated into it. There's a saying that you can't reason someone out of a belief that they weren't reasoned into. And the freedom movement, I don't particularly like that term either, but whatever. For hundreds of years, there have been, great books and treatises about liberty and individual rights and all these things and why government is bogus and all that. But they've only gotten to a tiny fraction of the population. And I think the problem is so many people who like to think about concepts and principles and philosophy, they talk to the rest of the world as if the rest of the world likes to think about that. And the rest of the world goes, "You're saying crazy stuff," and runs away. So I think we really need to focus more on psychology. Like, the philosophy is easy. It's so obvious, it's ridiculous. If I can't give someone a right I don't have, then they can't have a right that the rest of us don't. Therefore, Congress doesn't have the right to rule us. The end. I mean, this is not complicated stuff. And there's half a dozen other ways to prove the same thing. The problem is that when people have been trained to believe something that makes no sense, they don't react rationally. They don't have calm discussions. Their brain freaks out. They do the cognitive dissonance routine, and their brain tries to escape the entire discussion. And so the mirror, the whole point of it is to have an interactive conversation with somebody without them feeling any pressure, without all of the things that trigger the usual freaking out and getting defensive and getting angry and shutting down and going into argument mode or just plain running away. And this is based on, me having talked to, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of statists over the last 20 years, because that's about how long I've been an anarchist, and observing, like, the philosophy side is easy, but I've accidentally learned a ton about human psychology and all the weird things that get in the way of people just thinking about things and talking about things. So the mirror is designed to sort of carefully navigate that minefield that makes people's heads explode and makes them freak out and get angry or run away, to get to the point where you can actually invite somebody to honestly look at their own belief system so that it doesn't feel to them like some person is coming up to them and saying either you're evil or you're stupid or maybe both, and you should sit there and let me tell you how wrong and dumb you are, and then agree with me. That doesn't work.
It doesn't
Even
work,
if
guys.
you're right, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. I've seen it on Facebook for years, and it's usually kind of newer anarchists. And I found this is sort of cut you off there, Larkin, but I think this is an important point, is that I've seen a lot of sort of newer anarchists, they get really excited because it actually is really exciting. It's really empowering, and it's really enlightening to find out this knowledge, and it takes you to a whole new level. And what happens a lot of the times is a lot of people who just learnt about it, they become so passionate about it that they go on Facebook and someone will just say something even minor, a minor status sort of saying, and they will jump all over them. Do not do that. That is not how we can break through this brainwashing, this programming. And that's why the mirror is so important. So carry on, please, Larkin.
Right, and that's why we have to understand, and I use myself as a guinea pig because I was a statist for years and years, and I look back at the old me and think, what could the me today say to that indoctrinated bozo to get him to question what he's always assumed? And it's very, there are different variations depending on personality type and stuff, but there are some very obvious patterns of things that make people freak out. And one of the main ones is if they feel like it's an outside opinion assaulting who they are, almost nobody will ever be open to that. They feel like you're attacking them. So the mirror takes it completely different direction. First of all, there's a narrator, but it never says I, it never says me, it never argues against them. It basically leads them on gives them a tour of their own brain and their own belief system, and lets them decide everything. Lets them decide what they believe about it. Well, what do you think about this? And he does like hypothetical scenarios and talks about principles. And from the beginning, it gives the impression, and it just comes right out and says, This isn't going to be about judging you. Like, you decide right and wrong here. It's going to be about you examining your belief system and what you believe to see if there might be things in there that are actually tricking you into betraying yourself. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody else doesn't approve of what you think and what you do, but if you find out that there are internal conflicts, that you're actually being tricked into acting against what you believe in and who you really are, what you really want the world to be, wouldn't you want to know about that? Like, so none of it is like your intentions are horrible or your beliefs are stupid. It's your intentions are fine, your moral code, we're just going to assume it's fine. We're not going to challenge it at all. We're going to assume you're an intelligent person, and we're just going to walk through this process. And the only reason it works is because it is absolutely impossible to believe in government without having a giant contradiction inside your own head. And so instead of it being one person saying, I like vanilla, and the other one saying, I like chocolate, it just walks them through the fact that they cannot be consistent with themselves as long as these weird authoritarian, this mythology is stuck in their head. So it just gently leads them up to and go, oh, look what you just found. and that's one of the keys is, if somebody feels like an idea is from outside, it's a foreign idea that somebody's throwing at them, they don't want it. But if you can make them find it for themselves, they remember it, they embrace it, it becomes them, it feels like their own, instead of like something attacking them. So that's what the mirror does. Because you really, as much as, anarchists would like to go out and deprogram people, you can't. You cannot force anybody to change their mind. You can invite them to deprogram themselves. That's all you can ever do. So this is like the nicest, politest invitation for people to deprogram themselves that I can imagine. And that's the only way to do it. Because, nobody could have made me into an anarchist. I did it because I kept looking at the contradictions and kept changing things and throwing out pieces that didn't make sense. And then one day I went, whoops, I don't believe in government anymore. And that's what has to happen. And we have to invite people to do that instead of, they they parrot the status indoctrination we were taught, and then they get tackled by 20 anarchists saying, you're such an idiot. And I totally admit that on Facebook, I argue with people in a not at all gentle and non-judgmental way. I tell them, you're just totally wrong. But the mirror does it completely passively and completely non-judgmentally, so as to not make them freak out and throw things at the screen and run away.
Well, I've actually seen you on Facebook, and you're definitely in the top quartile of people who are able to debate with statists and not get to the point where you're like yelling at them or telling them they're stupid or anything. You just use rationality and logic a lot, which works to an extent. But as you pointed out, government is a belief. It's a religion. It's as you say in your book, the most dangerous superstition, or you could also say the most dangerous religion. It is a religion. It's a belief. And as you know, as people know, if people have been in cults, for example, and organized religion is just essentially sort of like a cult in many ways, not always, but in many ways. And to try to break someone out of that is nearly impossible just by telling them they're stupid. That is not going to work at all. So this is an amazing, I think it's a genius idea, and I can't wait until it gets out. And I know you might be a bit of a control freak, I think, because you're doing everything on this yourself, including programming. You've had to learn how to do 3D modeling and all this sort of stuff just to do it all. But tell us a little bit more about the process of getting this done.
Yeah, I'm using a program called Blender, which is a free open source professional grade animation modeling and animation software where you can basically build your own universe. But as you might imagine, it takes a while to build your own universe.
It took God 7 days at least, right?
Right, it's taken me a little longer than that. At first it takes forever just to learn how to use it. It really is, by a factor of about 100, the most complicated program I've ever learned. But now I'm already to the point where I'm comfortable with it and can make all sorts of stuff. And there's always more stuff it can do that I don't know how to, and I'll have to go find a YouTube tutorial about it. But I knew that it was, again, it's all psychology stuff. It was important to have visuals to keep people engaged. The two most important things of the mirror Well, three. One is that it's interactive. Because if you stand up and preach at somebody, they don't really have to pay attention. And a lot of times they won't. And they'll be bored and they'll be like, when's this going to be over? But just a trick this simple of if you ask somebody a question, what do you think about X? Almost nobody will just sit there and not say anything. Their brain fires up because they're like, oh, I have to say something. They can't not be engaged just because you ask them a question. And so the whole process is driven by what answers the user gives to questions the entire time. That guides the conversation all the way through, which makes it ridiculously complicated to make, but because the program has to be able to go in any direction. It asks a question, and if they say yes, it goes that way. If they say no, it goes that way. So it makes them be engaged by having them be the one giving the opinions. There aren't opinions from anywhere else. It's just your own opinions answering the questions. And then another thing is it had to be visual. It had to be memorable. It had to be interesting because we're visual animals. And if you explain something to somebody, whether it's in writing or just you're speaking to them, and you say it in words, 10 minutes later, if you ask them to repeat back what you just said, they'll almost always get it wrong. Because, it starts to fade and it starts to be just general thing and, something about something or other. But if you ask somebody, hey, remember that scene in that movie that you saw 10 years ago? Oh, yeah, were they? Because we remember things visually. So every question has little visual 3D representations to show. So their brain can lock onto, okay, here's what we're talking about. Like, here are three people and here's one person. Do they have the right to boss him around just because there's more than, they outnumber him? And just something that simple, it just is hugely helpful. I mean, the video Philosophy of Liberty did a great job just by having little stick man-y representation is just a great way to make the concepts clear and make them memorable. And it's that only interactive and 3D, so it looks even cooler. But it's interactive, so they're always engaged and they're always seeing something memorable and interesting, so it's visually engaging and intellectually engaging. Because no matter how good you make a one-directional presentation, a book, a video, a movie, a whatever, a rant on YouTube, it's still one-directional. And they can just sit there thinking, well, you didn't talk about this and you didn't talk about that and I didn't pay attention to half of it and now I'm leaving. But if you make it a discussion where the only moral code involved is their own, they can't not think about things because they have to at least think to go, well, I think that's, they have to think something just to answer. And so it invites them to basically open up their own brain and then look at their own brain without anybody else like looking over their shoulder going, that's stupid and you're an idiot. And there's no judgment. There's no other person there. The narrator doesn't have a face and the narrator doesn't ever say I. It's just the person having a discussion with themselves.
Yeah, I think it's genius again, like I said, for that reason as well. So many people are into video games, and when I was younger, I was into video games. And I just can't get into them anymore because I'm always searching to learn something or to discover something I didn't know before, which I guess is learning. If I'm playing a video game for a few minutes, I might go, oh, this is pretty cool, but what's the point? At the end of this, do I learn something about myself? Do I improve my knowledge through this? Quite unlikely. I think most people play video games, and I'm just generalizing here, but a lot of people play video games as an escape from life. And I think a lot of people, rightfully so, don't really like this world and the way it is, and they think it's horrible, and it's mostly because of statism, but they don't necessarily know that. And so they just want to take a break, get away from the world and immerse themselves into a different reality, which is fine in a certain extent. But I think the genius of this game is that it actually will lead to enlightenment, and they won't even know as they're doing it. So a lot of people will probably come across it, hopefully, when it gets out. I'm going to ask you when it's coming out, but they'll hopefully come across it just totally benignly. They'll just be a game that a lot of people are talking about, and they'll be sitting there in their home or wherever they are and just get on it and, oh, this is interesting. interesting. I haven't played a game quite like this before, and before you know it, they're thinking, and that's where we can, you know, sort of awaken them. Hey, we don't need all this violence and war and poverty in the world and all this heinous acts and immoral stuff, and you just figured it out. And I'll bet, and I hope that when this comes out, that there'll be literally hundreds or thousands, or let's hope millions, sitting in their home by themselves, having essentially a spiritual awakening to what life is and how they've been lied to about it. So I know it's going to take you a while to finish it. And this is one thing I want to put in your head here. I know you're accepting as well contributions or donations to help get it sped up. I'm encouraging my audience to contribute if you like it. We're going to have the links to everything down below. And if you think this is an important project, to contribute, because as you pointed out, you can get it done a lot faster if you don't have to worry about paying the bills. And hopefully, and I hope trying to plug a little thing in your ear here, maybe you can even hire a few people to help you so you don't have to re-engineer the whole thing all on your own.
Well, two things. First of all, yeah, the funding is, you know, somebody who I won't name gave me a pile of money so that I have been able to work on it full time for the past however many months, and it's been my job. Now, at the end, there's zero chance of profit because it's going to be given away for free to everybody, to anybody who wants it, as an app and on a website and all that. So it's just, and I will finish this thing one way or another. Either I will do it living in a cardboard box and take 10 years, or if people can chip in so my electricity and water don't get turned off, then I could get it done a bunch faster. It'll still be months away because there's a massive amount to do. But it's pretty limited how much other people can help, in part because I am a control freak. Like, I like to do the visuals myself and have them exactly the way I want it. But there will be stuff to do regarding make it into the actual program. Like, I make the video. So really the program is, it shows a short video, it stops on a still, and it asks you a question. And then depending on which you answer, it shows either video A or video B, and it spreads out into this huge flow chart, which for the user is always just one, you know, they just have one path, and it just feels like a natural back and forth discussion, but it could have gone 1,000 other directions depending on how they answered. So we have to program all of them so that whatever they answer, it still goes that way. It doesn't just crash into a dead end. So there's a massive amount of work to do, and a lot of it I want to do myself. And also, the only other people who know how to do it charge $12 zillion an hour, because professional animators make a ridiculous amount of money. But yeah, mostly it's because I'm a control freak. But if you look at you look at some professional animated movie with no people in it, watch the credits sometime, because you'll see it takes hundreds of people years to make a movie in which nobody appears because it's all just building a whole universe and then animating it. So yeah, it takes a while, but I will finish it, and I really, really want to do it right. I don't want to release version 1 and then go, oh, here are the things that should have been in that, and then try to chase it down and replace it with version 2. It's got to be right the first time, because I hope it's going to spread all over the place. Like I said, it's going to be free, and I hope people, even after they just do a little bit of it, they go, hey, check this out. This is cool and weird, and I don't know what it is. I've never seen anything like it. And then it'll spread that way. And I mean, that's the whole key. Like, I can talk to somebody one-on-one and have a pretty good success rate at getting them to question things. But in the time it takes me to do that, 3,000 statists were just born, or people are going to be indoctrinated into statism. So you never catch up that way. And for years I thought, well, there isn't another way to do it. You can't make it interactive and mass produced. Unless we can figure out
3D printing of Larken Rose, so cloning you. Other than that, though, this is the only other option.
Yeah, and I actually think this is way better than me having a one-on-one discussion with somebody. Because even in that setting, if there's somebody there, here's another little psychological note about the thing. If you're there, no matter how polite you are, even if they want to be there and you're having fun, and you ask a question about something they've never thought about, nobody's just going to sit there and think for 5 minutes quietly, even though that's what they should do. They're going to feel like, well, I have to say something or I sound like an idiot. And then they say something dumb, and then they say, well, now I have to, defend the stupid thing I just said, instead of saying, wow, that was dumb. So instantly their brain is doing the psychological thing that gets in the way of actually thinking. Well, in the mirror, it tells them up front, not only can you pause as long as you want for any question, you can leave the program whenever you want, and it gives you a short code so that you can come back to it on any computer, and a few digits will tell it all your past answers and where you left off, so that if you have to think about something for a week to decide how to answer that question, you can. And nobody's like, come on, what's your answer? And one of the most complicated things to program, but it was absolutely necessary, is people can go back and change their answers. Because if they're moving along and they see, why did I say that before? Now I think that was wrong. It's not, haha, we trapped you and there's no going back. It's, well, do you want to go back and change it and try again? So you can always do that. And people are way more likely to do that when there's not another person there. Because people don't like to say, yeah, the answer I gave half hour ago, now that I think about it, that was really stupid. Can I change that? People don't do that in normal discussions. But if they're the only one there, and they're basically talking, there's omniscient narrator and them looking at their own brain, they don't mind going, maybe I was wrong about that. Let's go back and try it the other way. Instead of like, am I going to be trapped? And so it's all the mentality, it's all the psychology that gets in the way of people just thinking about something, heaven forbid.
Yeah. All right, let me think about this for a second. You're a control freak, and you're also a perfectionist. So this is going to take 20 years to finish. I'm a seed planter. I'm just planting seeds here, but consider having other people help you. And here's a really cool thing, and I don't know if you've ever tried this, but I've not tried, but I've mentioned it in the past, and it's been amazing how many anarchists approach me and say, I love what you're doing, and here's my skill that can really help you, and I will give it to you for basically next to nothing just to get this product out. So why don't you let people know, we're on the radio around the world via the Liberty Radio Network, so they might not be able to see any text links or anything. Let people know where people can donate and find out more about the mirror, and if you're open to it, even contribute using their own skills to make this happen faster.
Yeah, and there are some areas where that I totally need that, because there's a little bit that I don't know how to do. On the Freedom's Phoenix, freedomsphoenix.com website, they have a funding center. If you go down the left-hand side of the page, it says Funding Center, and in there it has a page for the mirror, and that allows you to donate by, I think, Bitcoin or PayPal. Or if they email me at larkenrose.com, I can give them a snail mail address or whatever else, and Larken with an E, by the way. The main thing I'm going to need is people who, after the videos and stills and stuff are rendered and done, they know how to make an app because I want this to run on like any device you can possibly find, and I don't know how to do that side of it, including just on a website, so you can just go do it, go to a website and do the whole thing straight off of the internet, and you don't need a snazzy device other than a computer, which I guess is pretty snazzy. But I do want it to be compatible with just everything under the sun. I want it to run on an abacus, if that can be done. And that's something I don't know how to do. So I will definitely need help with that.
Yeah, so for people out there, please check it out. We'll have links to it all down below if you're watching on YouTube. And, a lot of people don't realize, I know Larken fairly well now, mostly via just chatting over the internet and things like that, but I feel like I know him quite well, and I know quite a bit about his story, and he's a true freedom fighter. He has devoted his life to doing this, and he has fought the law, and the law won when he fought the IRS, and he got put into a indoctrination, or not an indoctrination, that's a school. He got put into a prison work camp, and so he is a true, amazing leader in this movement, in my opinion. And he is not getting by on a lot of money. It doesn't make a lot of money to be this way. So ways you can support him is to go to the Mirror. Other ways to support him is to get his books. And if you don't have his books, you have to get his books. Especially The Most Dangerous Superstition, in my opinion, is one of the top books books ever written that will wake people up. And if you haven't read it and you're an anarchist, you just have to read it. It's great. And if you know people who are fairly close to waking up, I don't think it'll work if you give it to, for example, Rush Limbaugh or Barack Obama or Stalin or Hitler, anyone like that. If you know some people are kind of waking up, great Christmas gift. Is Christmas coming up, a birthday gift, or just a gift? I actually prefer giving people gifts when it's not a institutionalized holiday anyway. That means more. So definitely support them through that. And the next great thing, in my opinion, and I'm kind of biased here, is that Larken has agreed to come to Anarchapulco 2016. I worked on this, Larken, for how many months? 6 months?
Yeah, I can't even count how long you've been pestering me. I retired from public speaking a year and a half ago, and this will be my first and maybe my only public speaking since then. And it's a talk that will tie into the mirror, but it won't be about that. But yeah, you finally convinced me to come down because it looks like a cool place and it'll be fun. So yeah, everybody be there.
Yeah, and I think you're going to love it down here. It's very anarchic in Acapulco. And but I was so happy to finally get you. And it was for people watching, it was not easy. A lot of people, when I finally announced it, said, how did you manage to do it? And I'm not sure how. I think just the persistence of not accepting no as an answer. And as well,
continual nagging.
And as well, I had a little bit of help, I think, from someone named Amanda Ratchwitz, who was actually the voice, I believe, on your Mirror trailer, who also was pestering you all along the way. And she's going to be, I believe, our next guest on Anarchast, and she'll also be speaking in Anarchapulco. So we have to blame her somewhat for getting you out of your bunker in wherever you are, Northeast U.S.
Yeah, she actually deserves as much credit as you do. Hate to break it to you, but
hey, I don't want any credit. I'm just happy you're coming.
Yeah, I met her and her husband Tom at the Jackalope thing out in Arizona a year and a half ago. And then we talked off and on, and she's done singing and stuff, and she's brilliant, and it occurred to me she could do the narration to this, and so she's going to, and you can hear from the trailer, psychologically it's always better to have a female voice talking to somebody, and hers is just really good, and I love the way it sounds, and so, but yeah, she's brilliant. And by the way, she talked me into coming to Anarchapulco, and then I talked her into speaking. So that was my revenge for her making me go. Well, you're coming too. So that'll be fun. Yeah,
we all convinced each other on things, but so glad you're coming. I think, Anarchapulco is truly the largest anarchist, is definitely the largest anarcho-capitalist conference in the world, and really leading edge on that. And not to have you there, I just found it was like having a Nazi rally without Hitler, it'd just be like, well, it just doesn't seem right. Like, why isn't Hitler here? This is what we're all about, what he's all about. And he's like one of the best. Really glad to have you down. And I'm actually going to put in, and I'm not going to do this too often just so people know, but I'm going to put in a little Easter egg on this video. If you go to anarchapulco.com and you enter in the discount code Larken, I'll just make it easy. Don't want to make too many spelling errors or anything. Just put in the discount code Larken, Larken, and for the first 100 people who register using that discount code, you'll get 10% off the conference. And so Larken has a huge audience and a lot of people who love what he's doing. So I expect this to not last too long. It'll probably just be a few days or at most a week or two. So if you're watching this and it's mid-November or afterwards, you can try to enter it, but it probably won't work. And that's you snooze, you lose. You got to pay attention. So really happy to have Larken coming down. And I guess that's basically it. Let's leave the rest until Anarchapulco, my friend. Do you want to finish up with a final statements?
Not really, except if people say, where are you speaking next? The only place I know I'm speaking ever again, as far as I know, is Acapulco in February. So yeah, look that up and be there. It'll be fun, and I'll plan to get almost no sleep that week, and because what I usually do is I talk 1% of the time and then yammer with whoever wants to talk to me until I pass out from sleep deprivation or something. So, but that part's fun too. So
Yeah,
looking forward to
same-
seeing people there.
Yeah, same thing with me. After the last Anarchapulco, I slept for about 4 days straight. But it was great. It was amazing. And next year, 2016, we already is looking like it's going to be so much bigger and better and more amazing. So really excited about it. I'll let you go, let you get back to work so you can learn how to program 3D modeling so you can finish the mirror. And like I said to everybody, help Larken out in any way you can. And I don't mean help like as in charity. I mean like he's not asking for a lot of things. And a lot of things he's doing, he wants to put out for free. And that will make things a lot better. So just like I said, if anything, just buy his books or even contribute to the mirror. And it'll get things done faster, and because he won't have to be running around trying to keep the power on, as he mentioned. And as well, Anarchapulco, all the links down below, and you can just go to anarchapulco.com. That's going to be amazing. I'll have Amanda Ratchwitz up next, I believe, if we can get her on. She is a little shy, and that's why Larken had to really talk her into coming on. But it sounds like she is, so we'll have her on, and that's it for Anarchast. So if you like this, like, subscribe, share. That's how we can spread these ideas. We will wake people up. We will not stop until we do. So this is Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
There have been a number of comics that have kind of touched a little bit on some themes with anarchy and liberty. People think about Alan Moore, who's a philosophical anarchist, and V for Vendetta and Watchmen, but there really hasn't ever been anything out there that is libertarian on the front, where libertarian philosophy is the mainstay, it's the accepted norm.
Over the years, I had always thought that Alongside Night should be a movie. In fact, I wrote my first draft for the screenplay in 1978, a year before the novel came out in bookstores. But now, Alongside Night is not only the original novel, which is out in a new movie edition, but also it's a movie which we previewed in 2013.
To do that. Of course it can happen again, and it's happened before. We don't get fooled again. I hope they don't lose confidence in their government. I can see why there's skepticism, but it's the only government we got.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.